If you are looking for do-it-yourself chicken tractor plants large enough to sleep up to 24 different chickens at one time, yet lightweight enough so that it can be moved by just one person, even over steep hilly terrain and down narrow, windy pathways, versus those big kinds that are clunky and can only be pulled by an ATV or a tractor and really not workable on small, windy, difficult terrain, then I thought in this video I would give you a quick rundown of how I built a chicken tractor capable of exactly that for use on my little 5-acre hobby farm, plus show you where you can get the plans for building one yourself. But before I show you where to get those plans, I want to show you the types of terrain that I built this chicken tractor for on my property so that you can see if it's a good match for you and your property as well. So the first thing that I really needed a chicken tractor for on my property as I was starting my little hobby farm was so that I could use chickens to eliminate how much weeding I have to do when we're getting a garden ready to be planted in the spring. As far as I'm concerned, whenever I can use an animal to do a chore that I hate, I am all in. And with a chicken tractor, instead of having to spend time weeding a bunch of plants, which tends to be painfully prickly thistle on my particular property, I just set my 4x8 foot chicken tractor on the spot I want to plant, and it is weed free in a day or two. I just let those chickens do the work. The chickens literally eat just about everything. Then by simply moving the tractor 8 feet down the garden bed every day before spring plantings, the chickens not only obliterate any spring weeds. According to this article that I found while reading this Mother Earth News magazine while browsing the magazine rack last year, it turns out that leaving 12 chickens in a tractor like mine for a day or two completely replaces the need for nitrogen fertilizers for the whole year. So I'm also fertilizing as I weed too, which, since I'm trying to be as self-reliant on my property as possible, really fits my goals perfectly. There's just one flaw with this model. The problem with every chicken tractor that I personally experimented with was that most chicken tractors that can house 1 to 2 dozen chickens, like I needed the ability to do, were way too heavy for one man to move. And since asking my wife, who's basically been pregnant for the last 6 years, to help move the tractor every single day was not exactly what you would call good for our marriage, I needed a lighter coop that I could carry all by myself so that I could not only move it up and down the hilly terrain where I have these terraced type of garden beds, but also move the coops to other areas of my property where I've found chickens to be incredibly useful at different tasks as well. For example, one of the things that chickens are great at eliminating is pests within an orchard. So I wanted a movable coop that, after I was done using it to weed, till, and prepare a garden bed, could easily be moved over to another area of my property along these small little hilly windy paths in my orchard and set down where I could erect a simple solar-powered electric fenced chicken yard for a couple of weeks and then let the chickens eat up all the pests underneath my fruit trees. This was actually incredibly effective, by the way, for killing off a cherry tree slug. If you happen to ever have that particular issue, I had an infestation a few years back, and this totally fixed that problem using nothing but chickens. And then when I wanted to take my chickens off of pest control duty, I also needed to be able to take that same net they were living in the orchard, and depending on the time of year and what I needed done, move that chicken yard to, say, a patch of lawn that maybe I wanted to have the sod killed off of and prepared for planting, instead of using a rototiller to do the job, which chickens are excellent at, by the way, as long as you leave them on one spot long enough. Or other times I wanted to stamp them right on top of a cover crop that I wanted to have tilled back into my soil to improve its fertility. Again, without having to use tractors or rototiller. I wanted just the chickens to do it. And since I could not find a coop that would really allow me to do that in an easy way that was light enough for just me to move, I set about trying to make my own. Now, I did not get this right on the first try, by the way, but what we eventually came up with is a chicken tractor that can house 8 to 12 chickens, depending on their size, for temporary use on our garden beds as an intensive chicken tractor where they're only living in the tractor, or if you were using them with a portable yard like the electric fence I was talking about, you would have enough roosting space in one of these coops for 24 chickens to go in at night and sleep at, as long as their play yard had enough space for them during the day to not start to run into over-confinement issues. And mine totally had enough space with their yard. It had to also be light enough so that one man could lift it and move it around, yet sturdy enough to hold up in the elements and while being moved without falling apart. It had to have a raven-proof nesting box. Yes, I said ravens, because we noticed that ravens where I'm from were getting in and stealing all of the eggs until we modified the door. I was literally losing 2 dozen eggs a day. It was kind of brutal. And it had to perfectly fit on all of my wife's raised garden beds, which is why we made it a 4x8 foot in dimension type of coop, so that it could literally be stamped on top of every garden bed on my property whenever that garden bed needed a little weeding or a fertility pick-me-up. And then if that wasn't cool enough, after we built the final design, we realized that it was also perfect for becoming a movable goat and or a movable pig pen if you simply took out the roosts that were inside of the coop, which really made it truly the ultimate portable pen for a one-man operation like mine who's trying to use rotational grazing principles with animals to improve the soil and maintain the fertility on their property. So, if having a coop like that really speaks to you, then I'm happy to announce that we do have the plans for this coop available for sale. The plans are 32 pages of fully illustrated step-by-step blueprints. They are sent to you in a downloadable format so that you can print them out from your computer within literally 30 seconds of requesting a copy today. And they include a complete parts shopping list that you can just print off, take with you to the hardware store to make sure that you have everything you need while you're at the store. You don't forget anything, so you can build one of these chicken tractors in just one weekend afternoon. That's all it's going to take. Normally, the plans sell for $19.95, but as an introductory offer, I thought I'd mark them down 65% and let you have a copy for just $7. I figure that's a fair enough price where anyone could afford these blueprints while still helping me recoup some of the costs that I had in creating these plans for you. Plus, if you didn't know, all of the do-it-yourself plans we offer here at the Prepper Project come with what we call a confusion-free guarantee, meaning that when you follow these blueprints to build your chicken tractor, if any part of our instructions confuse you or are unclear, simply take a picture of how your project looks at the stage of the build where the instructions are confusing you and send it to us for a complete refund. That way you really have, nothing to lose. And yes, we will still try to answer your question, by the way, but we don't want you to have to ever pay for instructions and blueprints that confuse you. So that's why we do that. So if that sounds like a fair deal, hit the add to cart button below and reserve your copy of the Ultimate Chicken Tractor Blueprint now. However, if you still aren't sure if these plans are right for you, here's a few commonly asked questions that we do get that I thought might be able to clear up a couple things for you. Number one is, can these coops be used as permanent chicken housing? And the answer is yes. I actually do this all the time. I have a couple coops where the chickens are actually permanently in them, and I move them around, and they're never in their main permanent coop. We can do this because of a couple things. One, I always keep a live trapping trap outside to make sure that it is secure. If there's an animal that could dig under it because they're on some dirt that could easily be dug under, I make sure that I have one of these live traps that you can pick up at any farm store that humanely allows you to trap an animal and take it and dispose of it someplace else or relocate it. And that has been great at keeping possums and raccoons and weasels out of these permanent coops if I've got them kind of out unsecured in the open. However, if I am keeping these coops permanently on 4x8 foot raised garden beds, they have the type of wood that doesn't allow any animal to dig under. That's how we made those beds. So depending on how your beds are made, you may not even need the trap. I certainly don't on some of mine because the animals simply cannot dig under a couple of my beds that these constantly are having these chicken coops on top of. So the answer really depends on you, but just be aware of being able to protect your chickens as you go about, considering whether you want to have these as permanent coops or not. I can where I'm at. You may or may not be able to. And the second question we get asked all the time is, how are the coops moved? It's very simple. We have put a brace structure into the roof where you can simply walk in, put your hands on the braces, and stand up. There's enough room for your head to walk around comfortably. You can see around you, and you're literally allowed to or capable of walking the coop wherever you need it to go, as long as you're an adult male of average, maybe even below average strength, and any fit female is more than capable as well of moving this. And then the third question we get asked sometimes is whether or not we can add solar powered doors to this model. And so what we did is, yes, we built, when we were raven proofing our doorways for use of these out in the pasture, we made sure that we built those doorways so that if you wanted to add one of those solar powered automated chicken doors, that when the sun goes down, the door automatically closes and kind of seals up your coop automatically without you having to go out and shut the door every night, then these plans absolutely are designed to fit right in line with one of those without having to modify them whatsoever. So that is pretty much the full scoop of what these chicken coops do. And while there are certainly other plans for coops that might look more artistic in a suburban backyard or work wonderfully if you have a flat pasture and an ATV to move it around with, I honestly have not found anything as functional as these plans that I'm making available today that I have built and used for me to use on my personal property, where I had to hand move by hand the coops to every new spot on the property, and ATVs were simply not an option because of my terrain. So if you're in that kind of situation and you've been looking for an easier way to put chickens to work in your small gardens or hobby farms, then click the link below to reserve a copy of these plants. I currently have 5 of them for myself that I'm using right now as I record this video, and honestly can say that they have made putting my chickens to work on my property much simpler, and I hope that you will find the plans as wonderful as I have, and really look forward to hearing from you on how you notice them working and improving your property as well. That's all for today. Until next time, this is Chet Womack from the Prepper Project, wishing you the best. We'll talk soon, everyone.